This is the World Report of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, October 2011. Coming up, navigating unfamiliar territory to save lives threatened by a deadly outbreak. The church brings a special gift to an industry ravaged by natural disaster.
Complete devastation. It's something that just you can't describe.
Plus, traveling halfway around the world to find faith magnified in the church, just getting started.
I have to say, I was unprepared.
But first, building homes, strengthening families, and improving prospects, no matter where that home or where that family might be. In pilot programs in countries like Peru and other regions of the world, the Church's Perpetual Education Fund, now in its 10th year, has taken off, lifting the lives of people whose access to education and job opportunities was radically limited before. Where would you be right now if not for the special funding?
It changed my life, my family, and the life of those after me.
Without it, I will have a poor quality job, lower pay, and my family will not have what they need.
I once heard it said that when hunger knocks on the door, love and happiness go out the window.
In regions of the world where deep-seated poverty is a harsh, unyielding way of life, and education seems impossible to reach, PEF-sponsored schooling can intervene and begin improving the prospects of those in need.
The Perpetual Education Fund has been a great blessing for me because when I first heard the prophet Gordon B. Hinckley say that education was the key and the opportunity, I felt it was my opportunity.
Where there is widespread poverty among our people, we must do all we can to help them to lift themselves, to establish their lives upon a foundation of self-reliance that can come of training.
Modeled after the Church's Perpetual Immigration Fund, established in 1849, it was 10 years ago, in the spring of 2001, when, as president of the Church, Gordon B. Hinckley initiated the Perpetual Education Fund, which has since provided low-interest student loans to tens of thousands of young church members in 47 countries across Latin America, Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. Their lives are varied, their professional and vocational pursuits unique, but a glimpse into the activities of these determined recipients in urban centers like Lima and Cusco, Peru, also shows a common thread of devotion to their faith and family, even when doubt creeps in.
I was afraid at the beginning. I think we all were. But I was sure that I was a daughter of God, and as His daughter, I could do it.
And what Mariela Quispe does is nothing short of remarkable. Just married recently to her husband Carlos, who was a widower, Mariela suddenly became a mother to a family of 2 children as she completed her studies in industrial automation with the help of PEF.
It was a miracle. I have so many people to thank. When I see what's around me, I feel very small. And I know that all I have is not only for me, but also for all the help I received from others.
Today, Mariela is a control systems service engineer, managing sophisticated remote-controlled equipment for a global mining and hydroelectric company with operations in Peru, and is the only woman in a field traditionally dominated by men.
I have a testimony that when one relies and trusts in God, everything is possible.
11,000 feet above sea level lies the historic Inca capital of Cusco. As a gateway city to Machu Picchu and other ancient ruins of the Americas, Cusco is a bustling center for tourism, especially by bus, an industry that keeps rolling for this man, Romel Alvarez.
The gospel has changed my life.
And so too has the Perpetual Education Fund. It paved the way for Romel to become a certified mechanic and parts manager for a large service center that specializes in bus maintenance and repair in his hometown.
There is more hope to continue growing and hope of progress.
Completing his formal studies in 2004, this family man continues to advance his specialized training, with his family in full support. But now, Romel's training is paid for as compensation by the company he works for. And there's more to come.
I will continue studying and training. My goal is to have my own mechanics business, and that's what I want to do. We are now a little better. We live in better conditions. We have food, clothing, and shelter. My family feels happy and safe.
In the 10 years the Perpetual Education Fund has operated, it has gone beyond opening doors to education. It's been the key to unlocking business ideas, helped forge partnerships, and attracted widespread admiration. Coming up later in this edition of the World Report, the conclusion of our special coverage on the 10-year anniversary of the Perpetual Education Fund. Thousands of Latter-day Saint youth gathered on the night of Saturday, August 20th in San Salvador, El Salvador, for a cultural celebration, capturing some of the joy and pride they feel for the opening of their temple. The transformation that has occurred since the temple's construction began 3 years ago has inspired many who have seen its spires rise up in the San Salvador skyline, especially the youth. Erwin Oriana lives with his family in the suburbs of San Salvador, and for the last 3 years of temple construction, he, along with countless others, has patiently waited for the day the temple would be completed.
This is something wonderful in my life. Now that it's dedicated, it's something for me as much as it is for my family. We are very excited as a family to come here for the first time.
On Sunday morning, August 21st, Henry B. Eyring, first counselor in the First Presidency, came out to greet families like Erwin's as church members and friends gathered to witness the cornerstone ceremony, one of the more memorable events that happens just before a temple is dedicated. Its significance to church members harkens back to temples built anciently.
And so we have it here.
Así que ya lo tenemos acá
to remember
para poder recordar
the cornerstone of the temple,
la piedra angular del templo,
and the cornerstone of our lives,
y la piedra angular de nuestras vidas,
the Lord Jesus Christ.
Al Señor Jesucristo.
The opportunity we've been given to have a holy temple in our country is something marvelous that we should value.
I can attend the temple regularly to do the work for my ancestors. My life will change because I will be closer to my Heavenly Father and be able to have His Spirit with me constantly.
As the first temple in the country, the San Salvador El Salvador Temple joins 3 other temples operating in Central America.
What a marvelous sight you are.
President Thomas S. Monson traveled to the Pacific Rim to celebrate a milestone with members and friends of the church last year in June to dedicate the Cebu City, Philippines temple. This marked the beginning of cultural celebrations of music and dance throughout the coming year, where thousands in Philippine cities like Quezon and Cebu commemorated 50 years from the time the church was formally organized in the Philippine Islands.
The magnificent Cebu City Temple, which will be dedicated in the morning, is the reason for this great celebration. It shines as a beacon of righteousness to all who will follow its light.
The 50-year anniversary jubilee that followed the dedication of the temple was observed in several locations earlier this year. The Cebu City and Manila temples serve more than 645,000 members living throughout the Philippines. Later in our broadcast, we'll have much more on other Latter-day Saint temples making news around the world.
I've seen devastation in many parts of the world, but nothing quite like this.
The church continues assisting recovery in Japan. H. David Burton of the presiding bishopric traveled to the quake and tsunami region of Watari in June. After surveying the destruction, Bishop Burton announced to the region's fishermen, hard hit by the disaster, that they would be given a massive industrial ice maker, several refrigeration units, and a cooling truck to help the fishing industry preserve its catch.
Thank you. So I think it's significant because here is a group that have been completely devastated of their livelihood. And this donation will assist them to get their fleet, or at least a portion of their fleet, back on the water and start a little cash flow for their cooperative to survive. And they can be self-reliant. And that's really what church assistance is all about, is to help people become self-reliant.
Since the time of the disaster, the church, its members and missionaries have volunteered so far more than 50,000 hours of service and helped feed and shelter more than 5,000 people who lost their homes.
I admire him as a leader of this big community.
Such were the kind references toward President Dieter F. Uchtdorf on the night of May 26 this past year, when the Los Angeles World Affairs Council invited the second counselor in the first presidency to speak to its members about the church and its global outreach while in Southern California's Universal City. President Uchtdorf joins a long list of other invited dignitaries who have spoken in the past, including former church president Gordon B. Hinckley. On this occasion, President Uchtdorf met with dozens of international civic and business leaders before addressing an audience of hundreds, speaking about the humanitarian outreach of the church, its history, and the central beliefs that unify its people, even though they represent many cultures and many languages.
We teach, support, and encourage all men, women, and children to draw near to God and live charitable and honorable lives.
I think what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints represents is a mode of thinking that is very important, and it crosses over cultures, it crosses over different worldviews.
And I believe with all my heart it is within our reach to breach barriers of hate and build bridges of brotherhood and understanding between opposing cultures, beliefs, religions, and worldviews.
A bright moment for the church on the June calendar this year highlighted the 75th anniversary of the welfare program and the dedication of a brand new Deseret Industries store near Salt Lake City, Utah. Conducting the dedication of the retail thrift store, President Henry B. Eyring arrived early to greet guests representing the community and local church leaders.
Deseret Industries was a part of the general welfare plan of the church to help lift people to employment so that they might then lift themselves to the capacity to care for themselves and their families.
The multi-purpose Deseret Industries building will house its thrift store, an employment center, and an LDS Family Services office.
I was unprepared for Mongolia. To come here and find the church born in a day, in a sense, to see the church 10,000 strong, nearly 1 in every 10 citizens in Ulaanbaatar are members of the church.
Elder Jeffrey R. Holland of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles comments on the surge in church activity and membership during his first trip ever to Mongolia while on his tour of Asia in May of 2011.
A lot of things you and I know about leadership in the church we grew up with. We watched it. We watched our bishops. We watched our deacons quorum advisors. We saw our dads or watched the high council come to visit. These people haven't had any of that. They've had to learn it fast and on-the-job training in the first generation.
Elder Holland's visit to Mongolia included time spent with some 100 missionaries serving there, teaching local priesthood leaders, meeting with government officials, and learning of the challenges that are unique to members who have joined the church in growing numbers since it was organized in 1992.
to come to a land that we hardly knew and the name of which seemed exotic and foreign and very forbidding, and to come and find the church so strong here and a beautiful generation of young people, these teenagers, a whole raft of missionaries currently and recently returned missionaries.
During his travels in Asia, Elder Holland also visited congregations in India and was accompanied by Elder David A. Bednar, also of the 12, during an additional visit to Hong Kong. But more international ministry was to come.
Let's just get to work. Let's not commiserate. Let's not just wring our hands and worry. Let's get to work.
This was one of the many messages shared by Elder Bednar as he continued the work and ministry of the 12, meeting with the church and its local priesthood leaders in England and Europe, which began in early September. During a week-long tour, Elder Bednar greeted and taught missionaries, mission presidents, and spoke at firesides throughout cities like London, Frankfurt and Munich, Germany, and Copenhagen, Denmark. Still to come, Brigham City's skyline is forever changed. Hear what the townspeople have to say as they reach a new level of anticipation. Plus, President Monson delivers a personal message to thousands of youth in the American South on the eve of rededication, as Latter-day Saint temples make news near and far.
It is my privilege this morning to announce 3 additional temples for which sites are being acquired and which in coming months and years will be built in the following locations.
During the Saturday morning session of the 181st Annual General Conference last April, President Thomas S. Monson addressed the worldwide church with plans for new temples to be built. We begin in the Mountain West of the United States and to the Fort Collins, Colorado temple location. It will serve church members in areas who now travel to attend either the Denver, Colorado temple or the Billings, Montana temple. The Fort Collins, Colorado temple will be the 158th temple of the church and second to be built in Colorado. Northwest to Meridian, Idaho, a temple here will serve members living in the immediate area and help to expand greater access to temple work already performed at the very busy Boise, Idaho temple. From Idaho to Canada and the province of Manitoba, the Winnipeg, Manitoba temple will serve the members of this Central Plains community who have been traveling to the temple in Regina, Saskatchewan, some 400 miles away. The Winnipeg, Manitoba temple will be the first in that province and the 9th temple built in Canada. To the eastern shore of North America and the birthplace of the United States, Philadelphia, on September 17th, President Henry B. Eyring traveled to the temple site to dedicate and formally break ground to begin construction. When completed, the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania temple will serve members in stakes in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. From North America and south across the equator, ground was broken on September 14th to begin building the Trujillo, Peru temple. It will be the second temple in that country, following the Lima, Peru temple, which was dedicated in 1986. With a loud cheer from the crowd below, thousands gathered in Brigham City, Utah on July 12th to witness the statue placement of the Angel Moroni atop the Brigham City, Utah temple, which remains under construction.
Watching the temple be built here in Brigham City has been a wonderful experience, I think, for the whole community. I feel like that our community has grown closer together as we've shared the excitement of watching the walls go up. And to be here today and see the Angel Moroni placed was marvelous.
This statue of the Angel Moroni, which is seen on most Latter-day Saint temples, signifies the restoration of the gospel and the second coming of Christ. Completion of the Brigham City, Utah temple is expected in late 2012. Atlanta, Georgia, one of the greatest cities of the storied American South, headquarters to several multinational companies and home to some 5.5 million people, is also home to tens of thousands who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and who have quietly been anticipating a special day, the rededication of their temple following extensive renovations at its site in the tree-lined community of Sandy Springs, north of the city.
Now that the day is here for it to be dedicated, I'm just really grateful to have the temple, the light of the temple, back here in Atlanta.
On Saturday evening, May 30th, at the Atlanta Civic Center, Church President Thomas S. Monson spoke before a crowd of Latter-day Saints and friends of the church to wish them well and inaugurate a cultural celebration of music and dance.
You'll be blessed by the light. I pronounce a blessing upon you, that you may feel the love which we have for you. May you know that our Heavenly Father loves you, and I bless you, that you will ever have a desire to serve Him and His Son, Jesus Christ. I bless you, that you'll always face the light and walk in the truth.
My heart was on fire the entire time. I actually started crying.
Can you imagine? For some of them, this is a chance in a lifetime.
The heart-pounding performance spanned generations of American entertainment and was a tribute to the charm and music of the South in a fun-filled, non-stop show called Southern Lights.
You could really feel the spirit as everyone was watching and cheering for everyone else, and it was just a great atmosphere.
I think all of the hard work we put into being at every practice and everything really paid off.
The temple they revere and celebrated on this night was first dedicated 28 years ago, which original dedication was attended by President Monson in 1983. It was the first temple in the American Southeast. Today, with its extensive new landscaping, garden setting, and renovated interiors, the Atlanta, Georgia temple will now serve 15 stakes and 151 congregations in Georgia, and also portions of Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, and Tennessee.
Well, to our family, it means togetherness forever. And that's something that I would really love to have, is my family with me forever.
Straight ahead, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir and Orchestra at Temple Square leave crowds marveling along the east and show up in places few could have predicted.
It makes my hair stand on end.
That story and much more in this edition of The World Report. Often referred to as America's Choir, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir and the Orchestra at Temple Square devoted its September 11th performance of music and the spoken word to commemorate the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. Veteran newsman Tom Brokaw anchored the special performance entitled 9/11, Rising Above.
I think we need to find a way to knit ourselves back together, and this anniversary is an opportunity to do that. To listen to this music lifts you, Amazing Grace, a part of this tribute. That is about grace and about doing for others without worrying about our own personal interest.
The 9/11 anniversary performance was broadcast on hundreds of television stations and cable networks in the U.S. and Canada, many of which carried music and the spoken word for the very first time. In the days approaching the anniversary, the Washington Post's On Faith blog gathered the thoughts of America's religious leaders, which included the words of President Monson, who wrote of the human tragedy. If there is a spiritual lesson to be learned from our experience of that fateful day, it may be that we owe to God the same faithfulness that He gives to us. We should strive for steadiness and for a commitment to God that does not ebb and flow with the years or the crises of our lives. President Monson's entire remarks can be found on the Washington Post website online. The Mormon Tabernacle Choir and Orchestra at Temple Square left home base in Salt Lake City and headed for the eastern United States and Canada for the 2011 summer tour. But getting all the choir members there took more than a quick farewell. Tour planners enlisted the service of 3 chartered planes, nearly a dozen buses, and 8 semi-trailers full of equipment.
Okay, now we got to push it in another foot.
The 360-member choir performed 7 concerts in 5 cities in 8 days, performing the kind of rousing, inspirational music they are internationally famous for.
The best part of being on tour is just having that new audience each performance, and to see the reaction. That part really doesn't ever get old.
It wasn't the first time the choir has been to places like New York and Virginia, but part of this year's tour included a first of its own, a surprise street performance at Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia. Visitors to the historic site were treated to a musical feast as choir members dressed down from their usual concert attire, sported casual clothes, and started singing patriotic favorites.
Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the steps and with the girls be handy.
I invite you all to give yourselves a hand. You've just participated in a live performance with the world-renowned Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
It was so exciting to think that we actually had the opportunity not just to hear the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in person, but to actually sing with them. It just, I could never have imagined to have an opportunity to do that. It was such a great idea.
In all, the choir covered more than 1,200 miles on the road between Norfolk and Toronto. And it was in Toronto that President Monson was able to meet up with the choir and offer his own perspective from the city where he once served as its mission president.
Perhaps you've listened to their albums or seen them on television. Until you've experienced a live concert, however, you cannot appreciate all that they have to offer.
Toronto's concert brought together audiences from all across the world, including a man who traveled all the way from England just to hear the choir live in concert.
I just find their music so inspiring. It is absolutely wonderful. In fact, so much so, it makes my hair stand on end, as I've told my family many times before.
After returning from their East Coast tour, the choir joined together with Broadway stars Brian Stokes Mitchell and Linda Eder to pay tribute to the Mormon pioneers at the Pioneer Day Commemoration Concert, where they honored the men and women serving in the military. Coming up next, Mormon Helping Hand steps in, but this time in a setting where only a supreme effort could hope to make a difference. These stories and much more in the news. In the wake of the deadliest tornadoes to hit the South and Midwest United States in nearly 40 years, Joplin, Missouri was the hardest hit city of all. On Sunday afternoon, May 22nd, the most powerful category of tornado, an F5, ripped through the heart of town, laying waste to homes and buildings, injuring more than 700 people, and claiming more than 100 lives. The Joplin, Missouri Stake Center, a Latter-day Saint meeting house, was also leveled. Even so, local church leaders were able to organize relief groups and send out hundreds of volunteers to help clean up the ravaged community, care for those who lost their homes, and in some cases, their loved ones.
The path of the tornado tore right through the middle of our ward, right to the heart of the ward. Over here we were able to find some people that were in a crawl space, and some men showed up with axes and we were able to hack through the hardwood floors and get it big enough to we could pull them out. And that was a mom and a dad and grandparents, and it was so good to see their faces, see them come out of the hole, but then to see their shock when for the first time they witnessed this, and they'd look around and just the disbelief on their face.
All told, approximately a quarter of Joplin's homes and properties were destroyed or severely damaged by the tornado. Since that time, more than 7,000 hours of Latter-day Saint volunteer work has been amassed by church members from cities like Springfield and St. Louis, Missouri, responding to the urgent need. In a remote island chain of the Pacific, far removed from the mainstream of modern conveniences and medical necessities, a small band of Latter-day Saint missionaries made an enormous impact on the health and survival of a threatened group of people in Papua New Guinea. Elder and Sister White were called to New Guinea from their home country of Australia last year. Shortly after arriving, thousands of villagers in the remote community of Sagari were faced with an outbreak of cholera, which claimed nearly 100 lives and sickened many, many more. Organizing small boats loaded with medical supplies, clean drinking water, and instruction on what villagers could do to minimize the risk, the band of missionaries and other volunteer doctors who joined them set out to halt the progress of cholera. In all, some 1,500 people scattered in remote villages were treated, and 2,000 more were educated on how to prevent the further spread of cholera.
This book is a book written by the women, for the women.
Julie B. Beck, General President of the Relief Society, speaks of the historic nature of a new book, Daughters in My Kingdom. Released in mid-August by the Church's official women's auxiliary, the Relief Society, Daughters in My Kingdom gives an account of the history of the Relief Society itself and details the diverse stories of strength and service by Relief Society members around the world.
It tells a great story. You get a picture of work that's been done historically and a vision of what that could become in the future.
Copies of Daughters in My Kingdom are being distributed in 25 different languages to women all over the world and utilized as a resource for personal study and for teaching in the church and in the home. BYU Television has opened its new location on the campus of Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah. President Henry B. Eyring dedicated the new building on August 12. It will serve as the university's broadcast headquarters for church, educational, and special events programming, and be carried through satellite systems across the globe.
These buildings have been built to take advantage of the wonderful and miraculous technology that will enable the university and the church to reach the hearts and the minds of members and friends across the globe.
With the help of the crowd and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir singing from the balcony above, President Thomas S. Monson ushered in the next century for the Joseph Smith Memorial Building in Salt Lake City in a special celebration that marks its 100-year anniversary.
Happy birthday to the grand old lady, the Hotel Utah in Salt Lake City, Utah. And may God bless us, everyone.
Built as the Hotel Utah in 1911, it was renovated and renamed the Joseph Smith Memorial Building in 1993. To commemorate its 100th birthday on June 9th, people celebrated wearing apparel from the time, while the lobby itself continues to house displays that hearken to the building's earlier days. Members of the church in California had the chance to enjoy America's favorite pastime in July, as a few Major League Baseball teams hosted Latter-day Saints in various Mormon nights across the state. In addition, Elder Quentin L. Cook of the church's Quorum of the 12 Apostles threw out the ceremonial first pitch Dodgers game near downtown Los Angeles. Many of the Major League Baseball teams host members of the church throughout the year, with the Dodgers holding the longest streak at 20 years in a row. With an absolute blast of vocal instrumentation, Brigham Young University's a cappella group Vocal Point is warming up after being selected for a primetime appearance on NBC's The Sing-Off competition this fall. Vocal Point, composed of a changing list of BYU student singers, has been performing for more than 20 years. New York City is no stranger to new media. A fitting location as the church brought the I'm a Mormon campaign to Times Square this past June. Billboards and signs on taxi tops and inside subways featured images of many of the members' colorful profiles, along with a statement, I'm a Mormon. The ads refer viewers to the Mormon.org website, where they can read about more than 30,000 individual church members and have their questions personally answered online. Elder Richard G. Hinckley says the church has been using media for the last few decades, with efforts focusing more on what they believe. Now, efforts are focusing more on who they are because of what they believe. The campaign is being launched in additional cities across the United States. Straight ahead, refining the golden age of ancient Jerusalem to recapture the greatest story ever told, and the conclusion of the Perpetual Education Fund's 10-year anniversary.
For the past 2.5 years, this project has been in design. It has been a virtual experience, but now seeing earth excavated and seeing walls being built and stone being applied and turning it into a physical environment has been very, very exciting and fulfilling.
Roughly 70 miles south of Salt Lake City, in the windswept hills of Goshen, Utah, lies a massive replica of ancient Jerusalem. This newly constructed movie set will be used for a series of films depicting the life and ministry of the Lord Jesus Christ as recorded in the New Testament of the Bible. After 9 months of searching for an ideal location and considering many other regions, church leadership found the location near Goshen, Utah had the best overall look and feel of the Holy Land. A group of highly skilled craftsmen were assembled to make sure the ancient city would emerge and appear as it did at the time of Christ, reflecting the many details that have endured through time.
We took a look at what ancient Jerusalem really looks like with white limestone and the quality of that stone, and tried to really duplicate that with white styrene and styrofoam, and trying to shape it over with stucco and paint to get that definitive Jerusalem look, and I think we've been fairly successful with it.
The set itself is designed to be versatile and to be used not only for the New Testament films, but also for many more productions still to come. The film shot at the Jerusalem Motion Picture Set will be seen throughout the church education system, the Sunday school program, missionary teaching initiatives, and church visitor centers. We return now to the conclusion of the Perpetual Education Fund's 10-year anniversary. In metropolitan cities like Lima, Peru, where skilled workers are in high demand, educated employees like accountant Patricia Vega, administrator Breny Huaman, and graphic designer Marlene Lopez have found a professional path through the fund.
I feel fulfilled. I have achieved things I never imagined.
Marlene served a mission, returned home, and attended school to study computer-aided design. But there was one problem. She didn't own a computer. That was in 2003.
I really feel that if I hadn't asked for help from the PEF, I wouldn't be where I am now.
And where she is a very busy place. In time, Marlene graduated with a technical degree, has a full-time job creating graphic designs for a vocational college, launched her own successful business in commercial graphics, employs up to 7 people when work is at its peak, and developed an internet cafe right from her home.
I talked to my leaders and I started paying back my loan to the Perpetual Education Fund and my school with my income. And then that way I got more customers.
The gospel is my life. When I turned 21, I had the luggage to go on a mission.
Patricia Vega has a way of looking ahead. Growing up in the church, but in a small town, she had to, in order to set her sights on a university degree in a city like Lima.
I'm not the Patricia I was before. Now I am Patricia, a public accountant with a diploma.
She also isn't in what you might call a traditional line of accounting work. In a few short years from the time of graduating, Patricia now manages the finances of one of the most respected fashion and design firms in Peru that teaches, develops, and markets a wide variety of indigenous fabrics and native-grown products.
What I love about fashion is that by a design, you can translate what you feel.
Patricia's successful transition, she is eager to share.
I am grateful to my Heavenly Father for the Perpetual Education Fund. I hear people say they get paid very little, but I advise them to study because it gives hope that one can have a better life, can grow, and help their family and their country.
I have important goals to accomplish, and I know the Lord will help me do it. I know I have to work hard in my faith and my prayers and to always remember Him. Those are the blessings the Lord has given me. And as He said, to whom much is given, much is required. I know that the Lord will require much from me, and I have to work hard.
By the end of this 10th year of operation in 2011, the church's member-supported Perpetual Education Fund will have helped 52,000 students gain higher education. And through their employment opportunities, funds are repaid and loaned out again and again. But accounting for those who have received it will be an easier task than measuring the lives of those who continue to fulfill its promise.
The Perpetual Education Fund, established in 2001, continues to move forward. On average, with the 2.7 years of education they're now receiving, they're increasing their income by 3 to 4 times. What a blessing this is in their lives. This is indeed an inspired program.
I am very grateful to the prophet who gave me this great opportunity. And if I see him again, I will say thank you to him. It changed my life, my family, and the life of those after me.
This has been the World Report of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, October 2011. To watch the World Report online, you can log on to newsroom.lds.org, or you can visit this website at videos.lds.org.